20-second thesis statement or discovery along my case study explorations is that subconscious realms may be described through 3 distinct layers, each one housing specific styles of neural data, creating unique experiences for distinct regions of self-essence or parts of consciousness or subconscious parts. You got the conscious awareness, and then you step down into the first subconscious layer, and this houses our everyday adult self. Then you take another step down into the subconscious. This houses our supporters or protectors of self-sense, or the aspects of our neurobiological applications of consciousness that protect and support who we are. And then you take another step down, so it's pretty far from our conscious awareness. It's kind of, it's a few steps down there. The third subconscious layer houses our inner child. And while our conscious self-sense comes from our first and second layers, our unconscious self-sense comes from our second and third layers. You can explore more about these concepts in my book, Liberated Consciousness. I dive into great expansive detail about this topic, describing these concepts through brand new diagrams, including my Liberated Consciousness diagram. Understanding subconscious activity in relation to these 3 layers provides profound understanding and healing potentials along any journey through life. At the core of who we are, we have our everyday adult self and our inner child. And then there are a bunch of parts of us who are protecting and supporting these aspects of ourselves. One of infinite occurrences that may arise is if there's pain being experienced by the inner child, but the everyday adult self needs to keep functioning, then these parts protecting and supporting our being might encourage independence of these regions so that the adult self can keep functioning without having to connect with the pain being experienced by the inner child. Although this may create a sense of internal division where these regions operate autonomously of one another, it does provide coping to continue moving through life. Understanding these subconscious realities profoundly validates experiences while expanding potentials to transform them. An important aspect about this thesis is that these 3 subconscious layers each contain distinct regions of neurobiological activity, including different regions of subconscious neural data and different styles of unconscious brain-body activity operations and regulation. So remember that neural wiring unconsciously impacts navigation within identity and experience and brain-body regulation. So this means that we have 3 subconscious layers, and each one could experience distinctly unique styles of understanding who the self is, how the self relates with reality, how the self relating with reality processes and interprets elements of personal experience, and how this interpretation of reality stimulates neurobiological activity, including hormones and neurotransmitter activation and regulation throughout all the different nervous systems, central, somatic, endocrine, autonomic, how the prefrontal cortex engages, etc., etc., etc. Muscular engagement, so many different aspects, facial features, bodily postures, vocal vibrations, all the different elements of unconscious brain-body activity could experience their own unique style of engagement within these subconscious layers. It's kind of fun to play with this idea and keep these hidden subconscious realities in mind while we navigate through our unfolding moments of life, and we create space to acknowledge every part of our consciousness, even the trillions of self aspects existing in operating beyond our direct perception and immediate awareness. This idea also expands insights about unique orders, or unique order of neural wiring within the neurobiological social engagement system, which is presently described as structural dissociation. In unique orders, these three subconscious layers might exist and operate completely independently of one another. Parts of consciousness might experience completely independent inner realities and translations of outer realities, based on how they're experiencing these three subconscious sectors. Parts of self-essence in the first subconscious layer experiencing the everyday adult self, or the conscious self-sense or conscious roots of who we personally are within our sense of identity, might have a completely different interpretation of the identity and reality and different styles of brain-body activity than parts of consciousness in the second subconscious layer, who are in charge of protecting and supporting the sense of self. So they kind of play this middle ground where they're here to support and protect the adult self and the inner child. And then different aspects in the second subconscious sector might experience their own styles of understanding who the self is and how the self engages with reality, and how the reality within interacts with the reality without, how the brain-body system operates and responds to aspects of experience. And then other parts of consciousness might be in the third subconscious layer, where the inner child lives, and those self aspects might be experiencing completely distinct, independent styles of neural projections that explain who the self is, how the self engages with reality, and automated occurrences of brain-body regulation. And when these three subconscious layers exist and operate independently of one another, then there could be these parts of consciousness all having their own unique experiences. And within adaptable consciousness condition, for example, these three subconscious layers might house completely independent persons, each one being their own independent person, or there may be a dozen independent persons within each subconscious sector, a dozen independently engaged states of consciousness within the inner child, a dozen independently engaged states of consciousness within the aspects of supporters and protectors of self-sense, a dozen independently engaged states of consciousness within the adult self, or the parts of consciousness who are engaging primarily with external reality. And so there's all these different aspects of self flowing through all these different regions of neurobiological applications of consciousness. And all this activity can be described in these three subconscious sectors. And when these three layers engage independently of one another, then the inner child has their own experience, the adult self has their own experience, and then there's these protector parts or supporters of self-sense who are also having their own experience. And then parts of consciousness might experience themselves independently. Even when there are fluid flows and consciousness experiences neurobiological engagement through one fluid state of operation, there's still distinct styles of personal experience in these three subconscious sectors. So even though these three layers can talk to each other, when neurobiological data is all able to achieve communicative connectivity through unconscious operations due to thriving attachment systems past and present, there's still parts of consciousness who are experiencing the internal reality of the inner child, and there's still parts of consciousness who are experiencing this middle ground where they're in both inner and outer realities, bringing this harmonious balance to everything. And there's still parts of consciousness experiencing external reality, primarily as the adult self. So there's still these three subconscious layers with distinct independent styles of activity. Dependent on integrative connectivity within the neurobiological social engagement system, these parts of consciousness just might be able to communicate fluidly with one another, or they might require manual communication to bridge worlds and have internal linkage and communicative connectivity. This thesis statement has a bonus feature. I discovered through my self-healing and case study ventures that you can actually visually, tangibly, personally connect with these three subconscious layers through a very distinct style of mirror meditation. Okay, we are about to play so hard. Are you guys ready for this? So we have two mirrors, okay? There's one mirror here, and there's one mirror here, All right, so one mirror is in front of me, one mirror is behind me, okay? And the mirrors are connecting with each other. They can see into one another the way that they're angled, okay? So that's the first step. Now we've got two mirrors, one in front of us, one behind us, okay? You with me? So when we look in this first mirror, you are seeing yourself. This represents your first subconscious layer, where your life partner lives, the everyday adult self who navigates external reality. Now let's explore our second subconscious layer. When you look into the first mirror, looking at the mirror behind you, you notice there's someone standing there, and they have their back to you, and they are looking into the other mirror, okay? So their back is to you, and their eyes are looking into that other mirror, okay? This represents your second subconscious layer where your best friend lives. And they always have your back. Their back is to the everyday adult self in the first mirror, in the first subconscious layer. And so the second subconscious layer is the best friend who always has the back of the life partner. This is another example with larger mirrors. Right here is my first subconscious layer where my life partner lives. Right here is my second subconscious layer where my best friend lives. The best friend always has my back and is always looking out for my little one. Now we go even deeper into our subconscious. When you look fully from this first mirror into that back mirror, you'll notice an even smaller person who is looking at you. This represents the third subconscious layer, or the inner child. This is another example using larger mirrors. This one right here is the third subconscious layer where my inner child lives. Doodle-doodle-doo. So the best friend in the second subconscious layer not only has the back of the life partner in the first subconscious layer, but they are always looking out for the inner child in the third subconscious layer. So this middle version of me here is the second subconscious layer. The best friend always has the back of the life partner in the first subconscious layer and is always looking out for the inner child in the third subconscious layer. You're looking directly into the first mirror. You see your first subconscious layer, the representation of parts of consciousness experiencing life in the first subconscious layer. And this is closest to the conscious awareness. These are the parts that you know about directly. You go deeper into your subconscious layers, and as you look in the first mirror, at the second mirror, you notice that there's someone behind you, and their back is to you, and they are looking away into another aspect of self. This represents the second subconscious layer where the best friend lives. You go even deeper, and then you can see a third subconscious layer. When you look into this mirror at the mirror behind you, there is an even smaller self aspect, and that represents the parts that are much farther from the conscious awareness, still impacting life, but more within the unconscious body-mind than within the conscious mind. This represents the third subconscious layer where the inner child lives. The best friend has the back of the adult self and is always looking out for the little one within. Here's a diagrammatic expression of this concept with the conscious awareness closest to the first subconscious layer and the unconscious body closest to the third subconscious layer. While our conscious awareness has direct access to our everyday adult self focused on external thrival, our inner child is farthest from our conscious awareness. Beyond direct perception, the inner child is focused on internal realities and thrival and directly experiences elements of the unconscious body beyond what is immediately accessible through the conscious self. Here's another visual representation of it. The first subconscious layer, the second subconscious layer, and the third subconscious layer. The everyday adult self, the best friend, and the inner child. These parts of consciousness are focused on the outer world. These parts of consciousness are focused on the inner world. These parts of consciousness are focused on helping bring balance and support to inner and outer realms, always having the back of the life partner or the everyday adult self, and always looking out for the little one or the inner child within. First subconscious layer, second subconscious layer, third subconscious layer. This style of mirror meditation brings powerful healing results. The observational self who is witnessing this experience is distinct from the experiential self, who can be seen through these three subconscious layers. As the internal observational self connects with the experiential self by recognizing and respecting the life partner in the first subconscious layer, supporting and providing for the best friend in the second subconscious layer, and loving and celebrating the inner child in the third subconscious layer, profound healing ignites from within. You can create new implicit memories with emotions and procedures related to attachment need fulfillment. You can heal the neurobiological social engagement system by addressing brain-body needs in a profoundly loving and creative way with conscious presence. And you can rally all aspects of consciousness in a revolutionary capacity that bridges worlds between the conscious mind and the unconscious body-mind. Connecting with elements of self in this way brings many healing potentials where they otherwise did not exist. A powerful aspect about this is how I discovered it. I used to experience life through alternate states of consciousness. These states of personhood here were actually independent people. I would look in a mirror and the person here, and the person here were not the same people. And so this mirror meditation actually helped amplify neural connectivity so that parts of consciousness experiencing life through the neurobiological social engagement system through brain-body wiring had more opportunities to connect, communicate, and collaborate so that every part of consciousness had a chance to be seen and heard and have their needs and desires fulfilled in a way that enabled harmony throughout all aspects of self. Another element of how this brings healing has to do with my personal dimensions theory. And you can explore more about that later on. But long story short, different visual points connect with different elements of neural wiring. And so when we're using visual connectivity to link worlds between these different aspects of self, reaching different corners of visual stimulus, we're actually growing new neural connections to amplify unconscious associations with the self. And this can help heal any form of neural disconnectivity that may be producing unique experiences such as dissociation. Regardless of the type of healing journey an individual is on, this can bring healing because you're linking all elements of self, bridging worlds throughout regions of consciousness, and amplifying neurobiological well-being. Using this mirror meditation to fulfill attachment needs is especially powerful. Meeting internal needs for the first attachment system here for the inner child, meeting internal needs for the second and third attachment systems here for the best friend, and meeting internal needs for the fourth attachment system here for the life partner can produce profound inner healing. And you can explore more about these concepts in my Liberated Consciousness diagram, which I explore in my book, Liberated Consciousness. Applying this unique style of mirror meditation where you're directly looking into three subconscious layers, you can actually gradually expand neural connectivity because these three subconscious layers each connect with different regions of neural wiring. And this mirror meditation specifically connects with these three subconscious sectors. When you apply this mirror meditation and you shift your visual gaze to these three self aspects you can see in this mirror, as you have one mirror in front of you and one mirror behind you, and you shift your visual gaze to consistently look at these different self aspects of you, especially, and this part's important, especially connecting with the inner experiencer. Like, you're not just looking at your body from different angles. That's really important. You're not just kind of casually glancing at your body from different angles. But if you specifically look and say, okay, this is my life partner. This is my adult self who operates in the external world. And this is my best friend who always has my back, always has the back of the me who's operating in the external world as the adult self, and always looking out for my inner child. And then this is my inner child who experiences my inner realms beyond my awareness. We got this inner and outer realities, and then the bridge between those. When you look and you focus on connecting with your inner experiencer, or the consciousness within you who is experiencing these different self aspects or different aspects of your personal identity, both within and beyond awareness, and you shift your visual eye gaze to these different self aspects with the intention of consciously connecting with these elements of your consciousness, then you can actually gradually expand neural connectivity throughout these subconscious regions. And this has profound, infinite healing journey benefits, expansive potentials for internal transformation. It's important to note, though, that this is a very gradual process. If you just do it for 5 minutes here and there, you're not going to see any results. If, however, you apply this as a daily practice for 30 minutes to 2 hours every day, or even 2 to 3 times a day, like in the morning and at night, or once during the afternoon or something, and you continue doing this daily ritual every single day for many, many months, you will experience profound transformation. Different elements of your consciousness will have increased communicative connectivity within the unconscious neurobiological flows of neural data and brain-body operations. So within the subconscious body-mind and the unconscious body-mind. So within the subconscious mind and the unconscious body. And over time, everything will start to change from the inside out in a very profound way as the observational self connects with the experiential self, fulfilling attachment needs for these three subconscious layers, and in the process kind of bridging worlds of all that neural data. And this especially has profound healing journey benefits for anyone experiencing a unique order or a unique order of neural wiring within the neurobiological social engagement system stemming from adverse childhood experiences or early life traumatic stress. A lot of times, self aspects in these three subconscious regions won't have communicative connectivity. They might even be completely independent states of consciousness or autonomous inner persons. And through this style of mirror meditation, you can help bridge these worlds of self-aspect and link the regions of neural wiring that they're connected with so that parts of consciousness have more opportunities to experience healing journey homecomings. My 22nd thesis statement is that subconscious realms, or the unconscious body-mind, may be explored through 3 distinct layers. The first layer is closest with our conscious awareness and houses the roots of our conscious self-sense, or our everyday adult self. The second layer is still reachable from the conscious awareness, but a little bit farther away from it, and that houses the supporters and protectors of our self-sense, or our individualized sense of identity. And the third subconscious layer is farthest from the conscious awareness and closest with the unconscious body, and that layer houses our inner child, or the roots of our unconscious self-sense. And you can explore these ideas in great dynamic detail in my book, Liberated Consciousness. I go into profound, detailed depth about the neural structures creating content and connectivity within and throughout these layers, and how that impacts personal experiences for specific types of subconscious parts.